Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled you're joining me today because the source material we're unpacking is, well, it plunges us straight into the psychological deep end of internet mystery communities. Today, we're taking a close look at a fascinating and honestly pretty harrowing series of emails between two individuals who got deeply entangled in cryptic online puzzles. We're going to see exactly what happens when the lines between a digital game and the real world completely dissolve. And more importantly, we'll explore a really core psychological dynamic here: how toxic validation in an online echo chamber can push someone entirely over the edge, turning a fun digital puzzle into a literal, real-world crisis. You hypnotized me. You led me. Then you left. Left me and left brain off, hanging, stuck, not getting better. Just think about those words for a second. That incredibly raw, desperate email was sent by Paula to Thomas on December 29th, 2017. It really serves as the emotional climax of our story today, showing us someone completely unmoored from reality. But to really understand how these two strangers reached such a devastating breaking point, we need to rewind the clock a bit and track this breakdown step by step. Section 1. Down the rabbit hole. Okay, so what's absolutely staggering here is the timeline. This entire intense arc, from this esoteric, collaborative puzzle-solving phase straight into a severe mental health crisis and finally ending in a bitter fallout, all of it unfolded in a shockingly brief window. We're looking at roughly 3 months, right? From October 2017 to January 2018. The sheer velocity of this descent is absolutely crucial to keep in mind. 3 months is a terrifyingly short amount of time for a total mental collapse, but it brilliantly illustrates how quickly an online obsession can accelerate when you're surrounded by the right catalysts. Before we dive into the actual emails, let's quickly set the stage and clarify the high-stakes world these two are operating in. Our sources frequently drop terms like Cicada 3301, Tengri, ARGs, and LARPs. Basically, these are alternate reality games and live-action role-playing. They're highly complex, super cryptic online puzzles that purposely blur the lines between fiction and reality, tasking users with decoding totally esoteric clues. In these communities, finding massive, sprawling patterns where absolutely none exist, that isn't seen as crazy. It's literally the entire point of the game. And that specific dynamic makes these spaces incredibly dangerous breeding grounds for paranoia. Right out of the gate, we see Paula completely immersed in this environment. In early October, she's sending Thomas these massive webs of numerology, desperately trying to connect dates like 1013, 2017, the number of the beast, 666, references to the Kabbalistic tree of life concept, Dayet, and all sorts of intricate movie references. It's like a giant puzzle where she is clearly hunting for cosmic meaning in every single digital shadow, trying to weave all these disparate pieces of internet lore into one unified truth. And how does Thomas react? Well, he doesn't tell her to take a step back or ground herself. Not at all. Instead, he cheers her on. He calls her Pavana, heavily leaning into her digital persona. He tells her this highly isolating individual path is the way, and literally calls her an inspiration. In these early days, he is actively providing the toxic validation that fuels her deep dive into these cryptic, detached explorations. Section 2. Encouraging the glitches. On October 10th, Paula sends this very brief but stark email. She writes, "I woke up at 12:21. The glitches are back." You guys, this is a major psychological red flag. In technology, a glitch is just a small, temporary error. But in human psychology, a glitch means losing a grip on reality. She is no longer just solving a puzzle for fun. She's signaling a rapidly deteriorating state of mind where the game is violently bleeding into her waking life. And the crucial turning point of this entire exchange is Thomas's reply. He writes, "Yes, 12:21 is 2:11:12. That's a good sign. I trust you both." Even as her mental state visibly fractures, Thomas encourages Pavana's glitches during her breakdown. Instead of suggesting she step away from the keyboard, he feeds the paranoia right back into the game's numerology. He explicitly frames her psychological breakdown as a good sign for the puzzle they're playing. Now, looking at this dynamic completely neutrally based on the source documents, we uncover a fascinating yet terrifying reality about internet echo chambers. In these digital spaces, the line between a supportive friend and a toxic enabler often just entirely vanishes. Thomas consistently validates Paula's delusions rather than helping to ground her. By encouraging these paranoid connections as legitimate puzzle clues, he acts as a primary catalyst for the severe real-world harm that follows. Section 3. The Tengri Deception. Suddenly, Paula's inbox just explodes with this chaotic cast of online characters. We see mentions of a group called Tengri, which apparently claimed extraterrestrial origins. There are all these people named DJ, Lisa, Defango, Genki, J1337. Imagine how overwhelming this constant barrage of shadowy aliases would be for someone who is already losing their grip on reality. The correspondence turns into a dizzying, inescapable web of accusations over who's lying, who's role-playing, and who's an enemy. The paranoia within this community becomes absolute.
And for Paula, this wasn't just a fun game on a screen anymore. She tells Thomas she was badly hurt, hospitalized, and felt she was poisoned near to death. She writes that there were bugs in the soup of these ARG puzzles. This really highlights the immense gravity of the situation. The stress, the endless confusion, and the constant digital manipulation from this community drove her into a state of severe crisis, requiring actual physical medical hospitalization.
Faced with Paula's desperate and critical state, Thomas aggressively distances himself. He adopts his absolute defensive posture, claiming, "I have never followed Tengri. I write music, I have a message, I don't hurt anyone." This is a classic form of gaslighting within these digital communities. He fostered her obsession and celebrated her immersion, but the exact moment real-world consequences arrive, he completely sanitizes his own involvement, painting himself as just a peaceful bystander.
Section 4. The Judas Betrayal. When Paula begins talking to other members of the community, actively trying to uncover who was actually lying to her and causing her distress, Thomas flips the narrative entirely. He writes, "Now you go to my friend Pauline and stab me in the back? Why have you become a Judas? Why?" When she seeks the truth, he goes on the attack. Again, Thomas talks about Judas, weaponizing this label of ultimate biblical betrayal to make himself the primary victim here, completely ignoring her recent hospitalization and trauma. This brilliantly illustrates how these two individuals are now operating in completely diverging realities. And remember, we aren't taking sides here, we're just macking out the text. In Thomas's reality, he's a peaceful artist who's been unjustly betrayed. In Paula's reality, she's a victim hospitalized by toxic games, furious at Thomas for seemingly protecting liars. This stark divergence is a classic case of digital detachment. Thomas is completely safe behind his keyboard, controlling the narrative, while Paula is suffering the actual physical and psychological consequences in the real world. But Paula absolutely refuses to accept the Judas label. She fires back a massive email, explicitly holding him accountable for his role in her descent. She reminds him that he was the one who promoted all of this, and he encourages Polivina's glitches during her breakdown. She points out that he was validating her dangerous delusions as puzzle clues, all while others in the community were mocking her behind her back. She simply refuses to let him rewrite the history of their dynamic. Section 5. Left in stasis. At the very end of December 2017, the argument just halts. Thomas suddenly announces he's suffering from severe inflammation and physical illness. He states he's going through medical tests and abruptly withdraws from the conversation, telling Paula he's taking a break and going into stasis. The irony here is thick. Thomas uses a physical illness to completely escape and shut down a conversation about the profound physical and psychological trauma he helped Paula stumble into. Which leaves us with this incredibly tragic finality. Paula replies, "Stasis? Good luck. I still can't get in to see anyone for help." It's a truly devastating image that highlights the vast difference between the internet and reality. The digital game has faded away, the puzzles are abandoned. Thomas has simply logged off with the click of a button, and Paula is left completely isolated, ungrounded, and facing the agonizingly difficult task of finding professional psychiatric help in the real world.
So what does this all mean for us? When the lines blur, when online puzzles and digital paranoia are encouraged as a harmless game but bleed into reality, who actually pays the real-world price? As our digital and physical lives continue to merge more and more every day, Paula and Thomas's correspondence stands as a really dark warning about the immense power of the communities we choose to engage with and the absolute devastating cost of toxic validation. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this fascinating source material. Stay curious, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.